Hello everyone, my name is Riley Hales. I'll be presenting a brief introduction to the GEOGloWS ECMWF Streamflow model. In order to really understand why the model is unique and why it's important, I'd like to start at the very beginning with why we need Streamflow data. And really the world needs better water data of all kinds: groundwater, stream flow, lakes, water quality, and so on. We live next to water, we vacation to go see it, we drink it, we need lots of it, yet sometimes we get too much of it. Flooding is one of the most costly natural disasters every year. It takes many lives, countless dollars in infrastructure damage, lost homes, crops, and so on. Conversely, though, many people live far from water. These people are more worried about, am I going to have enough water? They're more concerned about drought conditions. And while these are both extremes on the need for water, the solution to both of these scenarios is you need to have better water data to inform your decision-making process so that you can be prepared for either the flood or the drought and make sure you have enough water. Traditionally, the way that we provide this data is shown here on the top row of the slide. We'll take global data sets, expertise, computing resources, the human resources, and provide that to an organization or government that needs to build a hydrologic model. And this is really invaluable, provides lots of benefits, and traditionally this is how the interventionary programs into the least developed parts of the world have worked. And while it's provided a lot of benefit, it hasn't produced the long-term sustainable change that we would have liked to see. So what we've tried is shown on the bottom row of the slide. Rather than build a separate model everywhere, we've experimented with taking the global data sets, human expertise, compute resources, and all that, building a global hydrologic model, and then providing a global service rather than data sets to each of these organizations that need data. And we think this has the potential to provide really sustainable benefits in the long term, since you only have to maintain a single model and you can optimize it and get cost savings that way. For the purposes of this presentation, there are really two challenges to make this work. First is, can you build a model that's that large of scale, that's sufficient quality? And then the second challenge is, can you make it accessible? Can you build enough useful services that it's providing the benefit that we need it to? So I'll start first with describing how we built the model. We started using the best available data sets and technology and building on top of that. So we took the ECMWF land surface model data. This is the same data that powers GLOFASS and ERA5. It produces these GLOFASS maps that you're probably familiar with. This is a raster data set, meaning it's produced on a grid like I've shown here with the colors. We second produced a watershed network. This is a geographic data set where watersheds are represented by polygons and the streams by lines, as I've shown in this simple figure. And this covers the entire globe. It's got about 1 million stream reaches, and the average area for each of the stream subsegments is 150 square kilometers. And the fact that it covers the whole globe and has a uniform set of metadata and a unique numbering system for each stream segment makes it valuable in its own right. But then we combine them together using standard GIS operations, and we can produce these tables where we know how much of each cell is in each watershed and how much runoff is expected to be in each of those cells, so we can crunch the math and figure out the volume of water that ends up in each of the watershed subsegments. So then when we put all of the subbasins together into the larger stream network, we can route from one subbasin to the next using Muskingum routing and until all the water reaches the outflow of the entire watershed. What this produces is two principal data products. The first is a historical data set. It's deterministic, so it just has one data set, and it goes from 1979 to the near present with just a few months of lag, so it's more than 40 years of streamflow data. And the second data product that we produce is a forecast. It's stochastic or probabilistic, meaning we make 52 different predictions and we generate plots like shown below. And we produce a new one of these forecasts every day. It covers the next 15 days. So this is a lot of data, especially when it's done at a global scale. And we need ways to easily interact with that much data, which leads us to how did we make the model accessible? Well, there are two ways. We have a data service and a mapping service. First, the data service. We built a REST data service, which means that you can retrieve just subsets of the model by building simple URLs like you would to go to a website. So in this figure I've got on the left, we have a hydrologist who needs data, and we've got data from the GEOGloWS model sitting on the cloud. She can open up her computer, use her web browser, build a URL using the patterns that we've documented, and then rather than get back an entire global data set, which is many, many gigabytes and would be a lot of work to parse through, she can get back just a CSV of the portion that she's interested in, something that corresponds to her river segment. So this is really versatile, and it's really powerful to just be able to get the information you need this way. It's accessible through many programming languages. You can get it in Python, R, MATLAB. You can get it in Excel or Google Sheets. Really anywhere you can get on the internet, this is accessible to you. We've also developed a Python package which automates building the URLs, downloading the data, and also provides you tools to generate some plots and do additional post-processing of the data. The second way that we make this data accessible is through a mapping service. And so this is a view of the global mapping service, and it was built with our collaborators at Esri. And you'll notice that there's some custom styling going on. The line thicknesses change, and there's also coloring as you go to different rivers around the world. And this mapping service corresponds to the most recent forecast. So based on our forecast data, we can change the thickness of the line, like I've got shown on the top right of the slide, the thickness to match the volume of water moving through the river at that point. Then the color indicates whether or not we expect that river to exceed a return period threshold. And we've also generated a variety of maps and color schemes to make this easy to access online. And this service is available for free using Esri's Living Atlas, so any web map or GIS software should be able to ingest this mapping service quite easily. And I mentioned this is animated, so I've got a demonstration video of the animation. If you'll pay attention to the bottom of the video, you'll see a time slider, and as the time is advancing, the coloring and thickness of the line changes. And so this was a really large storm in Peru, and so we have some purple, red, and yellow coloring and various line thicknesses that are changing throughout the forecast period. We can watch the water propagate down the stream network. So we've got a data service and a mapping service. We combine those together to create a authoritative interface to the model. We call this the GeoGloWS Hydro Viewer, and it's a web app available at apps.geoglows.org. So I'll play a demonstration of this as well, and so you'll notice that same map that I've been showing you as before. And so the user's panning in, watching the animation, using the controls at the top left to move through the animation period. And when you're satisfied that you've looked through the animation how you want, you can click on a river, and then using that data service that I mentioned, the app retrieves data to create these plots for you. You can toggle on and off the different components of the forecast. And when you're done, you can download the data through the app, or you can go back to using the data service according to your preference. So we're currently working on many projects to improve the model. We have performed already a historical validation and forecast skill analysis, and we're working on the reports for that as we speak, so that's forthcoming. We've documented through that process that there's some bias in the model, as you would expect in most engineering models. So we've developed tools to correct the bias where we have local data. Using the forecast data as a flood early warning system, generating flood maps, applying it to droughts, these are all areas that we're interested in pursuing at various stages of the research process. And we've also compiled a repository of training tools, workshops, presentations, code notebooks, and so on that help people use the tools into a single website, geoglowstraining.readthedocs.io, so that there's a central repository for information on how to use these services and make the model accessible. Thank you very much. I look forward to taking your questions.